is another edition of Culture Conversations with Christal. And today's conversation is another one about relationships. We are excited about the return of Love and Marriage Detroit. You guys know we have been watching and chatting and commenting on Love and Marriage Huntsville. But now it's time for our Detroit family to come back. Carlos King has done it again. The Love and Marriage Detroit cast is back for a second season. And there are two new couples. But of course, our first conversation has to be with our tried and true. We talked to Brandon and Kristina last year, and we have them back before the premiere of the second season of Love and Marriage Detroit. So please help me welcome Brandon and Kristina. Hi, guys.
Hey,
How
hey.
are you?
How's it going?
We are great. Thank you guys both for joining us. Like I said, we are excited about the second season. You all, the first season of Love and Marriage Detroit. What I loved about the show was it is so different. You know, we kind of had an idea of what we thought we could expect because of Love and Marriage Huntsville, but because Detroit is such a different culture and different environment than Huntsville, this show was totally different. The couples were the dynamics were very different. Some of the issues, of course, relationships could be consistent, but such a different vibe. A little bit younger, just a little different because, like I said, Detroit. I'm actually from Toledo, so Detroit is a lot more familiar to me than Huntsville. But I want to ask you guys both because I'm sure you guys are a young couple. Most of the couples on Love and Marriage Detroit were a little bit younger. After the season, there was a lot that happened last season. It was definitely a amazing first season, and you guys had a lot of issues that happened for you both. What were your thoughts, kind of processing? Once you got a chance to get off television, the season ended, and you had a chance to kind of exhale. What were your thoughts about the experience, and how did that experience maybe change your perspective? I'm going to start with you, Kristina.
I feel like once the show aired and we had the finale and the reunion, I was really able to breathe
Mm-hmm.
and really look at myself
Okay.
and our marriage and Brandon,
Mm-hmm.
and just like our dynamic and really seeing like who I am and how I show up.
Mm-hmm.
And realize that maybe sometimes it's a little different than how I've perceived myself before.
Okay.
So it really gave me the opportunity to really self reflect.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And honestly, from that point forward, I went on a journey to just really rediscover who I am and compare it to who I feel like God has called me to be.
Okay.
Um, as a wife, as a mother, as a friend, and just as a person.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
I've been a mom for 9 years now, a
Mm-hmm.
wife for 13. And I'm like, I've never really had the opportunity to sit back and just kind of like, rediscover myself, who I am as this new woman.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so the show really opened up my eyes, and I was able to have a front seat of my own life and really
Yeah.
see, like, Kristina, this is who you are. This is what your
Right.
marriage looks like. And so, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I was able to self reflect, do some healing. I went to
Mm-hmm.
counseling, and, I feel like the show has forced me to become a better person.
Okay. That's a great thing. I mean, that is like reality TV it sounds like it was a little bit therapeutic for you. And then also, allowed you to see some things. I'm wondering, like, for specifics, because we saw there were issues with you and the other ladies. And then also, of course, issues with you and Brandon. Were you all being married for so long and seeing the marriage for the first time, kind of like in an edited version on television? Were there things, what can you give us some examples of things that you were surprised to see that you weren't aware of prior to, like, seeing it laid all out, in production on OWN?
You want to see that one?
Um, the only thing that surprised me is just the stuff that they cut out that I was banking on, really. Because I mean, we lived the whole thing, so there was no surprises. And they edited it like pretty much on point, like how it kind of played out. So there were really no surprises in editing. It's just that I had a company I was planning on launching based on two scenes that I did.
Mm-hmm.
Both of those parts were cut out, and I was just, and like I actually was really disappointed in that.
Mm-hmm.
But other than that, there were no big editing surprises on our end.
Well, I'm going to stay with you, Brandon, and ask you this next question because I would assume that being on camera, like living your life every day, we make decisions, but make some of those decisions on camera has to be a little bit more, at least add a little bit of probably have to think it through a couple more times. So I'm wondering when you watched back some of the things that you saw, specifically like your interaction with the artist that you had. Did you think about that prior to, the fact that this is going to be on camera, the fact that Kristina is going to see this, or did you just kind of commit to being authentic and deciding to just live your truth regardless of what that was?
Oh no! Once we signed on a dotted line, I just was like, I'm gonna go with the reality of the situation. So I never thought about what this is going to look like on the other end. I just went with with my regular life. I've been working with artists my whole career.
Mm-hmm.
13 years, 19 years, and so that was no different. It's just the fact that um, you know I knew she was going. I had planned on telling her about the artist anyway. It's just she didn't find out on TV. She found out while we was filming. So it was real, very real.
Yeah. Did you have Christina talked a little bit about how she felt after, watching it back and kind of, realizing maybe she didn't show up the way she intends to or the way she wants to in the future. What were your thoughts or what were your like feedback on yourself after watching you on that first season, and especially like the issues really with just the two of you guys were probably the biggest things. What did you see anything that you wanted to change or that you thought, well, man, I could have done that differently?
It was more so like after filming, as opposed to after watching. After filming, I got straight into therapy,
Mm-hmm.
because I just realized that all these conversations that I was forced to have just let me know that I have things that I need to work out,
Yeah.
and between just as a man and as a husband and as a father, things that I just need to work out. And it was, same thing with season two. It's like more, it's kind of like we kind of both are on the same thing. Like season one is more like, okay, how can I be a better husband? How can I be a better father, a better friend? Season two is like, yo, how can I love me better?
Okay.
It's like, how can I get into like loving on me? So
Mm-hmm.
this whole experience has been very, very eye opening.
Yeah.
And then, when you open it up to the world, it's one thing being talked about in your city, but then, everybody around the country having opinions. I'm probably not reading comments on season two.
Well, I think that is probably a good rule of thumb for any season, specifically when it's your real life that's, on television. I would definitely, as a former publicist, I would definitely suggest people not to read the comments because it usually is just not, people are responding from their own personal, their advantage point and probably dealing with things that they've gone through. So,
Mhm.
and they're watching it as entertainment more so than realizing these are real people, you know what I mean? And that are
Right.
have real lives. Brandon, let me ask you, because there were several scenes last season with you and your mom, and that was some, I think a lot of people could, found empathize with that and felt like, okay, well, these are issues that he hasn't worked through or may not even have realized needed to be worked through. Where was that relationship? Where was the relationship with your mother, and how did you feel watching that back on television? Was that difficult or was that actually therapeutic for you as well?
I would say it was therapeutic just because it let me know that my mom is human as well, and that there's things that she probably has never worked through also, and so it's like I can't blame her for being who she is and how she was raised and all that. So Yeah, it was therapeutic because I originally wanted to go into therapy with my mother after filming, but I realized that I had to put on my mask first and take care of me first. And so
Mhm.
me and my mother still haven't like finished the therapy, but I'm still in it and I'm still working on me.
Kristina, how was that for you to watch? Because that may be like, I know, obviously you guys have been married a long time. So we're introduced to you for the, in the for one season, but you guys have been together working through, your issues for a while. Were you surprised to see, that relate the issues that Brandon was having with his mom at that, I guess in that him being that vulnerable in those scenes, or were you aware of, that the issues with that relationship?
No, I wasn't surprised at all. I feel like early on in our marriage, I started to really kind of dissect like where some of the issues that were coming from him may have stemmed from. And it always kind of like went back to childhood and maybe the way, he was raised. We were raised completely different.
Mm-hmm.
So I was always back then trying to tell him like, well, I think it's because, you may have experienced this and that's why
Mm-hmm.
process this way. And you may have some, you may have some trauma wounds and maybe that's why you respond this way.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think he could see it back then. I think he thought I was just coming for him.
Mm-hmm.
But so just watching it play out, it actually meant a lot to me because I know that they both love each other
Mm-hmm.
and that they both desire to have a better relationship with one another. So
Mm-hmm.
just to see them come together and at least like acknowledge that there's some issues here that need to be worked on,
Mm-hmm.
it touched my heart because
Yeah.
that's what I've always wanted from them and for
Mm-hmm.
them from day one.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. I think that's marriage. It sounds like both of you realized after watching last season that you needed to work on yourself. And I'm wondering, do you think that you can do that while being married? Like, can you say, okay, I need to give this a break and focus on me? Because I know, Kristina, you are focused more at this point on your career and maybe, some things that you let go because of the marriage and focusing on being a mom and wife. And it sounds like you, Brandon, needed to kind of work on yourself. And like you just said, loving you. And I'm sure the role of a husband is, you're not focused on yourself most of the time. You're focused on family. So how are you all managing to like take a break to take care of yourself while still, remaining a unit? I'll start with you, Kristina.
Um, I'm just doing it. Like I feel like because Brandon is in counseling and working on himself, there's a level of understanding that he has
Okay.
for me trying to find, I don't want to say find myself, but put some of the pieces back together for
Mm-hmm.
myself and grow. Um, I think that if both people in the relationship kind of understand and are on the same page, he's trying to find himself and rediscover things about himself and love on himself as well. So I think
Mm-hmm.
that it makes it easier because we kind of both are in the same boat and we are showing grace to one another and
Mm-hmm.
understanding there.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm just doing it. Like I'm just to the point where nothing can stop me, nothing can hold me back.
Mm-hmm.
I just have to go for it and
Mm-hmm.
let the chips fall where they may.
Mm-hmm. I love
And that's how important it is for me now at this point.
Yeah.
Setting healthy boundaries, taking care of myself, learning how to, as a mom and as a wife, you teach yourself to put everybody before you, and then
Mm-hmm.
you put your mask on last.
Yeah.
But in order to make sure everybody is taken care of and taken care of well, you have to take care of yourself first. So
Absolutely.
that's just where I am. I'm doing it. Like my kids are good. Sometimes I have to tell them no. Sometimes I have to not see them for a couple days. And I had to learn to be okay with that.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes Brandon and I may go a whole day without really interacting because I'm taking care of myself.
Mm-hmm.
And that's okay. I'm okay with that now.
Yeah.
So
Brandon, what about you?
Well, I don't know if you saw the trailer to season 2, but once you get to a phase where y'all are basically separated,
Mm-hmm.
it becomes mandatory.
Yeah.
Like all you really can do is work on you and figure out, how you can really just be happy, because we're all just really chasing happiness,
Mm-hmm.
and we're trying to, find that in other things and other people a lot of times, and it's really just it just comes from within, and um, so just taking an inventory on all your past traumas and maybe the voids in your current life. You just try to figure out, like, yo, how can I really just show up and genuinely just choose happiness every day? Because we done tried all the other stuff.
Yeah.
We done
Yeah.
tried that. And so all we can do is just really, I can focus. Brandon got to focus on Brandon. Kristina got to focus on Kristina. And I feel like that'll make the union stronger in the end.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's great. It's great to at least see, because I'm not gonna lie, I was not sure if you guys were gonna be sitting next to each other. After last season, I was like, I don't know if these two are going to make it. But I want to ask you this, because I remember talking to you all last season and just thinking, this segment is culture conversations. And I think, there's always a lot of conversation about marriage and what expectations are. And I wonder if you can look at 13 years is a long time. That is actually, extremely admirable. It shows two people that obviously have had differences, but have always been, committed to their family, in spite of whatever, issues have happened. But I wonder if you can look now, from your vantage point today and think, if you were talking to yourself 13 years ago before getting married, what are the differences between what you thought marriage was and what the reality of marriage is? Because I think so many people look at marriage from the outside in, and it looks like, I mean, you guys are both attractive, you've got these beautiful children, you look, you're on television, it looks like it should be an easy, perfect thing, right? Relationship goals, couple goals. But when you actually get in a marriage and you're actually doing the work, it's usually a lot different than what we expected or what we, thought it was before we walked down the aisle. So I'll start with you, Brandon. What did you have any expectations for marriage? And if so, how has your definition of marriage and being a husband changed from the time you first asked Kristina to marry you to where you are today?
Ooh, yeah, oh man. So, I pretty much had given up on like finding the girl of my dreams in my early 20s. And I just devoted all of my energy and focus to my career. And I really had never thought about marriage since. I didn't think about what kind of husband I was going to be. I didn't think about what I wanted in a wife. I literally had not one thought about that in over 10 years. And then I met her on Twitter. And the next thing you know, we talking about marriage.
That
And
profile pic,
I
that
just,
profile pic was everything now.
yeah, yeah. And I just wasn't ready at all. Like, it's like I have to get mentally prepared to even do everything, including this interview. I was not mentally prepared for nothing that marriage had to bring at all. I was not mentally, emotionally, none of that stuff. And so I didn't even have a preconceived notion of marriage because I didn't even spend energy thinking about it. So now I would just tell myself, like, yo, know what you want, stand on what you believe in, um, make sure make sure you are working on healing. I thought I was the man. I literally thought I was just like that guy.
Yeah.
Like.
You did. You really did.
And then when you get married, you just really are looking at the reflection of yourself. I think more the man than the woman. But yeah, it's just totally different. I would have told myself a lot. A lot.
I think for me, I feel like I had a pretty realistic expectation of marriage
Mhm.
from all angles. My parents are still married.
Mhm.
Both my grandparents were married. All my aunts and uncles married.
Mhm.
Um, I think that our marriage has taken ups and downs just like I expected.
Mhm.
But
Okay.
I think the difference, or what I would tell myself now, is the preparedness
Mhm.
for marriage and really vetting your partner. Really, I didn't ask all the questions. I
Mhm.
didn't know to. Nobody taught me to. We didn't
Mhm.
do like premarital counseling
Okay.
or anything like that. I would definitely tell myself, like, hey, we have to do premarital counseling, Kristina,
Mhm.
and ask all the important questions. Ask questions about, family health history, mental health history, um, the expectations of how you want to lead your family,
Mhm.
just all the things. Like, we ran off of love. Like, we were like,
Mhm.
oh, we love each other. We're so infatuated with one another.
Mhm.
Yes, I'll marry you. You know what
Mhm.
I'm saying? Without
Mhm.
really getting down to the important things. And
Yeah.
what's love got to do with it? As Tina Turner said, it's not that love is not important, but
Right.
when you're building with you want to build with a partner.
Mhm.
You know what I'm
Mhm.
saying? And a partner, you guys have to have common interests, common ground. There has
Mhm.
to be a plan, and we didn't do any of that.
Okay.
So
Okay.
that's what I would tell myself now, telling myself back then is have a
Mhm.
plan. Know exactly who you're marrying, what their expectations are. What are your expectations?
Mhm. Yeah.
Yeah.
I want to stay there for a second because I think that's good for people that are watching that, are contemplating or, want to be married and don't realize that, there's a lot of heavy lifting, involved in marriage. It's not just about looking at an amazing picture and thinking, oh, you guys look great together. Yes, but what else is there? So, Brandon,
Right.
I want to ask you, like, what are three things that you think that young men or just men that want to be a husband need to understand comes along with that title? Like, what are three core things for you that you have learned over this, time period of being married and kind of getting baptized by fire in the situation, that you think are really important for men to know before they pop the question when they see a beautiful woman?
Um, well, I think the biggest thing for me was like I thought I was coming into like a literal team. Like everything was going to be about teamwork and less about me being a leader. I wasn't expected or ready to be a leader.
Wow.
Um, that just was not something I ever knew that needed to happen. Um, and then like really just your relationship with love. It's like love is and marriage is more about the commitment than anything.
Mm-hmm.
It's not about, you know, does it feel good, because it's like it's if it was about love, I would have probably married five other girls,
Mm-hmm.
because I had already, I already had girlfriends previously. So it's just about like once you say those words I do and you say those vows, it's like you are literally doing what you're saying, like through thick and thin, through better or worse.
Mhm.
And it's just me seeing, my parents get divorced and when I was like 9, that just always seemed like a viable option to me.
Yeah.
When the things got tough, yo, this ain't working out. We just can.
Yeah.
So I was like a runner for like
Mm-hmm.
the majority of this marriage.
Yeah.
Um, and then other than that, it's just like, your relationship with God, just make sure that, um, even in the Bible, it says that when you get married, it's go pull your attention away from God.
Mm-hmm.
And so you gotta fight to really stay connected to, you know, to your source and to God, and let Him really lead you in all things.
Mm-hmm. I like that. So you said basically realize that you're going to be expected to be a leader. I think that's huge, and I think that the I like saying that is one thing, but I think when a man really understands what does that mean? Like, I am going to be the leader of this of this family, that's big. And then realizing that it's more about the commitment than the love or the feeling, the commitment of it. And then realizing that it can be a distraction from to take you away from God. So that's important to know. Very good. So Kristina, what about you? What are 3 things that you would want to share with women that want to be a wife? There's so many women on. He needs to put a ring on it. He needs to get married. What are things that you think that people don't realize about actually being a wife, that are important for them to know before they, say yes?
I think it's important to come into the marriage healed, because marriage can be tough. Like Brandon said, it's a mirror. Like a marriage really holds a mirror right in front of your face. And you know what I'm saying? If you're not healed, it will start triggering places of trauma inside of you that could cause like a downfall in your marriage at some point if not taken care of. So come into the marriage healed and knowing exactly who you are, exactly who God called you to be as a wife, and knowing what you want from your marriage and from your spouse and being clear with that. I would say number 2, trying to think of my most important ones. Number 2, I don't know. I'll definitely be healed. Number 2, just I'm sorry, I'm trying not to.
It's a deep question, but I think
we're in a space right now, so there's still some emotion here.
Yeah.
You've seen the trailer.
Yeah. I saw the trailer. I saw the trailer and the first episode. So we are, I think you guys are extremely brave to share. It's seriously, like really, real talk. Extremely brave to share this, and Brandon is especially. I want to just say, because I know for men to share parts of yourself that may not be what while you're still working through them, and to open yourself up for criticism, which we know will come with that, specifically because this is a show on OWN, which is female. The fan base for the show is very female, so we know that you're opening yourself up. I think that's extremely brave, but I also think it's just very real, and I think people relate to shows that show them authenticity, right? And so I think that's one of the biggest things about this show, that Carlos is always able to get couples that are actually, that we want to watch, that we want to root for, but are actually going through real life. And so I think that is, like I said, incredibly brave to share. And we definitely are hoping to see you guys, come through everything in a great place, not just as a couple, but also individually. I think, to Brandon's point, like, we don't always allow men to love themselves. It was great hearing a man say, I need to, spend time loving myself, because that's not what we don't really encourage men as often to give them, to make sure that they are, making sure they're doing self-care and self-love. And so I think that's extremely important. So it is very deep, but it also is very healing, I think, for other people that are going through this silently, and may not have a therapist to talk to, and be able to see you guys and see, okay, so at the end of the day, I'm not going to be good for a marriage if I'm not great for myself. So,
right.
So kudos to both of you for doing that. And I do, I know Brandon's not going to read the comments this season, and I think he should not, but we definitely look forward to checking in with you guys at the end of this season, and seeing where you both are, and hoping that it is, you have enriched yourself even more than now. So I want to thank you guys for sharing, for this interview, just being honest and being real about it, and let people know where they can tune in to watch Love and Marriage Detroit this season, so we can all check it out with you guys.
You can catch Love and Marriage Detroit on Saturdays. Well, the first Saturday is September 7th at 9 p.m. And then every other Saturday after that, it's going to be at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time.
Okay. All right. And we will check back in, Kristina. We will check back in for your points as you go throughout the season a little bit more. But like I said, I really do. We understand that life is real, and I think that understanding that and the fact that you all are sharing that with us is huge for so many people out there. I promise that need it. So kudos to you both. I pray that you get the healing that you both need in the marriage and individually, and for your beautiful children. So thank you so much for hanging out with us today. And we're rooting for you.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having us.
Absolutely. All right. We'll see you guys later on in the season.
Bye.
Okay.
Bye.